Home. It's where we feel safest. Where we raise our kids, water our gardens, and wave to neighbors. But what happens when that safety is ripped away? When the people knocking on your door aren't there to help, they're there to terrify you? This is my story. A story about how two men, dressed like authority, pointed a gun at me on my own doorstep. How they threatened my family. And how they made one fatal mistake. They didn't know my father was a US Army colonel. They looked official. Badges. Clipboards. Even the right jargon. But their eyes were wrong. Cold. Hungry. And that gun pointed at my chest that wasn't part of any HOA handbook. At that moment, I wasn't a mom. A gardener. A neighbor. I was a target. But what they didn't realize. My father doesn't back down from threats. He ends them. This isn't just my story. It's about every family who's ever felt powerless. Every person who's been bullied by someone hiding behind a badge. And it's about what happens when ordinary people fight back. Stay with me. Because what comes next, it's not just about justice. It's about revenge. Before we go further, tell me where you're watching from. Drop a comment below. Let me know if you've ever felt unsafe in your own home. And if you believe in standing up to bullies, hit subscribe. Because of this story, it's just the beginning. My name is Rachel. 4 years ago, I packed up my life and moved here to Willow Creek Estates, chasing the dream of a quieter life. A place where my kids could play in the yard, where my father could retire in peace, and where I could finally breathe. But this story isn't about the American dream. It's about how that dream can turn into a nightmare. I wasn't some warrior. I was a mom. A gardener. A daughter. My biggest worries were soccer practice and keeping my hydrangeas alive. But my father, he'd seen real war. And war, it leaves a mark. This neighborhood, it had rules for everything. Grass height. Mailbox colors. Even how many Christmas lights you could hang. But I refused to let them strip the soul out of my home. So I pushed back. And that's when they started watching. I told myself it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Mr. HOA president had a vendetta against tulips. But my father, he smelled blood in the water. Then came the day they knocked on my door. Not with a fine. With a gun. Have you ever felt watched in your own home? Drop a comment. Let's talk. It was a Tuesday. I remember because the trash truck was late, and my daughter was still in her pajamas at noon. I was in the kitchen, humming to myself, when I heard the knock. Not a friendly knock. Not the kind you get from a neighbor dropping off cookies. This was sharp. Demanding. Like someone who already decided you were guilty. Two men, both in dark tactical vests, sunglasses, and ball caps. One holds a clipboard, the other a radio clipped to his shoulder. They stand too close to the door, blocking the peephole. The man with the clipboard flashes a badge, too shiny, too new. His voice is clipped, rehearsed. We're with the Willow Creek HOA Enforcement Division. We need to inspect your property for ongoing violations. They had the uniforms, the badges, the attitude. But something was off. Their eyes never left my hands. The way they stood like they were waiting for me to make a mistake. I felt my heart pounding in my ears. But I wasn't about to let them in. I asked for their names, their supervisor, a copy of the violation. The man with the clipboard grows impatient, voice rising. If you don't comply, we'll have to escalate this. You're already in violation. Don't make this harder. I've paid every fine. I've spoken to the HOA. If you have a problem, call the police. I could feel the fear, but I wouldn't let them see it. I remembered what my father always said, bullies feed on fear. Don't give them a meal. So I stood my ground. I stalled. I kept them talking. And I prayed my dad was watching. The man with the radio steps forward, voice low and threatening. He says, "Last chance, open the door, or we'll be forced to take action." Suddenly, he draws a gun, points it at the chain. The man with the clipboard shouts, "You're under arrest for non-compliance with HOA regulations." I fumbled for my phone, but the man with the gun slammed the door with his shoulder, snapping the chain. Inside, Colonel Mallister, my father, moves with purpose. He grabs his phone, dials 911, then tucks it in his pocket, keeping the line open. He retrieves a heavy flashlight from the kitchen drawer, his old military reflexes kicking in. I thought I was going to die. But I wasn't alone. My father, he was already moving. The imposters push into the foyer, gun raised. Colonel Mallister appears in the hallway, voice booming. Drop it. Now. The man with the gun turns, startled. The colonel, calm and precise, swings the flashlight, knocking the weapon from his hand. The second man lunges, but the colonel sweeps his legs, pinning him to the ground. The colonel restrains both men, using zip ties from his tool drawer. He speaks into the open phone. This is Colonel Thomas Mallister. 2 armed men, posing as HOA, attempted a home invasion. Send the police. Now. I'd never seen my father like that. Calm. Unstoppable. He moved like he was back in uniform. At that moment, I knew he'd saved my life. Mrs. Alvarez, next door, calls 911, voice trembling. There's a man with a gun at Rachel's house. Jake, the teenage neighbor, records the scene from his window, whispering. Dude, that's Rachel's dad. He's got them on the ground. Police sirens wail in the distance. The imposters, faces pressed to the floor, mutter threats and curses. The whole street was watching. Some were scared. Some were angry. But everyone knew something had changed. We weren't just neighbors anymore. We were witnesses. I was terrified. But I wasn't going to let them see it. I kept thinking, what if my kids had answered the door? What if Dad hadn't been home? Colonel Mallister. You never expect to use those skills again. But when your family's in danger, you do what you have to do. I just reacted. Neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez. I've never seen anything like it. He was like a movie hero. But this was real. Too real. That day, I learned what real courage looks like. It's not about being fearless. It's about standing up, even when you're terrified. And it's about never letting anyone take your home, your peace, or your dignity. Not without a fight. When the police finally arrived, it felt like the world exhaled. Blue and red lights painted the street. My hands were still shaking, but I remember thinking, it's over. We're safe. But I had no idea how far this would go, or how many lives it would touch. I kept replaying it in my head. What if I'd opened the door wider? What if Dad hadn't been home? I hugged my kids so tight that night, I thought I'd never let go. Police traced the imposter's vehicle to a storage unit filled with fake uniforms, badges, and lists of local addresses. Authorities have uncovered a sophisticated scam targeting homeowners in Willow Creek and beyond. The suspects posed as HOA enforcers, using threats and intimidation to gain access to homes. Victims speak out. They said I owed $500 for a fence. I almost paid. They threatened to call the sheriff if I didn't let them in. I thought I was alone. Turns out, there were dozens of us. Some paid. Some were too scared to speak up. But not anymore. News coverage and social media outrage. A Willow Creek mother and her retired Army father are being hailed as heroes tonight after foiling a home invasion by fake HOA officers. National outlets pick up the story. Viral video shows dramatic takedown of armed imposters. Community demands answers. This is why you always check ID. Shout out to Rachel and her dad. I never thought I'd go viral for getting attacked in my own house. My daughter keeps calling me Mom the Warrior now. I guess there are worse nicknames. Emergency HOA meeting. Residents pack the clubhouse, voices raised. A neighbor stands up. We need real security. Real transparency. No more hiding behind rules. The HOA president, shaken, promises reforms. Neighborhood watch forms. Colonel Mallister leads a safety seminar. Trust your instincts. Ask for ID. And never, ever open the door to threats. I used to feel alone here. Now, I know I'm surrounded by people who care. We're stronger together. I went from terrified to angry to determined. I realized, if I don't speak up, who will? I want my kids to know you don't let fear win. You fight for what's right. Colonel Mallister. I spent my life preparing for the worst. I never thought the fight would come to my daughter's doorstep. But I'm proud of her. Proud of this community. And I hope our story helps others stand up, too. Colonel, with a rare smile. And you still plant those wildflowers, even if the HOA says no. The imposters are shown in court, faces blank as the judge reads the charges. News headline: Fake HOA enforcers sentenced to prison in landmark case. HOA reforms. New policies, mandatory ID checks, transparent violation processes, community oversight board. We found our peace again. Not because the world is safe, but because we know how to stand together. And that's enough. The family, together on the porch at sunset, waving to neighbors as the screen fades to black. If you see something, say something. Don't let fear silence you. Stand up for your rights, and for your neighbors. Together, we can make our communities safer. I never thought I'd be the one telling this story, but here I am, and I'm telling it for all of us. If someone comes to your door claiming to be from the HOA, or any authority, always ask for identification. If something feels off, trust your instincts. Call the police. And if you or someone you know has been threatened or intimidated, don't stay silent. There are resources out there: hotlines, legal aid, community groups. I'll put links in the description below. We started a neighborhood watch, and it's made all the difference. You can do the same. It doesn't take a hero, just a neighbor who cares. Justice, to me, isn't just about what happens in a courtroom. It's about what happens when we look out for each other. When we refuse to let fear win. When we turn a bad day into a reason to make things better for everyone. Justice is standing up, even when it's hard. It's teaching your kids to do the right thing, no matter who's watching. And it's knowing that, together, we're stronger than any threat. We're not just a neighborhood anymore. We're a family. We watch out for each other. We celebrate together. We heal together. And we make sure no one ever feels alone or powerless again. Justice isn't just a word. It's what we do, together, when we refuse to be bullied. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt afraid, or alone, or powerless, know that you're not. We're in this together. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more stories that matter. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Stay safe. Stay strong. And never, ever let anyone take your peace.